If you were born between bell bottoms and grunge, then odds are you grew up in the golden age of kids' cartoons. That's the 1980s. And let's be honest, cartoons back then weren't just shows, they were events. Saturday mornings were sacred, pajamas were still on, cereal box in one hand, remote in the other. We tuned into a lineup that made adulthood look like a scam. And I am here now, and it 100% is a scam. And that's exactly what we're celebrating today on GenX Countdown. The top 10 cartoons every 80s kid grew up watching. We're talking about the icons that shaped an entire generation of latchkey kids. Shows that launched toy empires, delivered life lessons in 22 minutes, and created catchphrases still stuck in our heads today. Remember screaming, "I have the power," while nearly snapping your plastic sword in half? Yeah, you do. There were more cultural juggernauts than just cartoons. And we're not just giving you a nostalgia hit, we're going to dive deep. The cultural footprint, the behind-the-scenes chaos, and even some scandal. One cartoon on this list nearly got pulled off the air for being too violent. And man, we love that. So pop that VHS into your mental VCR and let's get this memory machine rolling. Because if you don't get goosebumps from this list, were you even really a 1980s kid? Stick around till the end. One of these classics has a backstory that involves lawsuits, copyright drama, and a major betrayal between networks. Let's count it down, gang. Alright, we're going to start with Jem and the Holograms. Truly outrageous. This glitter-filled chaos rave was like Barbie met Kiss and then got hijacked by a synth-pop unicorn. But don't let the glam fool you. This cartoon was just way ahead of its time. Jem was Jerrica Benton by day, but with the help of her AI synergy, she transformed into a rock goddess. It was basically Hannah Montana with more lasers and probably better hair. What made Jem stand out wasn't just the music videos embedded in each episode. It was how it tackled issues like identity or business ethics and, no joke, corporate sabotage. Wild script for a kid's show. As a kid, I thought being in a band meant throwing sparkles at your enemies, and as an adult, still kind of wish that was true. The original title for Jem and the Holograms was to just be M for music. And Jem actually had a real-life record deal that Hasbro worked under the label Rhino, releasing 2 albums featuring the show's music. And oh man, if anyone got any of those laying around today, let me know. Hasbro created Jem to rival Barbie, and she almost outsold her. Few know Jem was actually animated by the same Japanese studio that worked on Transformers. And that crossover, I've heard that it exists, but I couldn't find it. The closest I got was a few PSAs, and I'll throw those at the end of this video. # bonus clip.
Now return to Voltron, defender of the universe.
From days of long ago. From uncharted
Alright gang,
regions of the
let's talk
universe.
Voltron, or the reason every 80s kid wanted a lion robot. This show was Frankenstein together from 2 completely unrelated series, and even with that mashup, man, it still worked. 5 pilots, 5 robotic lions, and when they combined, bam! Voltron. A giant mech ready to slice evil with a wildly blazing sword. Voltron was our first taste of epic space operas, long before most knew what anime even was. And the cliffhangers were truly brutal. I remember screaming at the TV when Sven died. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Well, kind of. And the merch? Man, Voltron figures were the holy grail of the toy aisle. Right up there with that elusive Boba Fett with the actual shooting rocket. But behind the scenes, it was chaos. Intellectual property rights were murky, edits were choppy, and the producers were pretty much winging it from all reports. The US producers were actually sent the wrong Japanese show. They asked for Beast King and Go Lion, but instead got Go Lion and Die Ruger, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, which is how Voltron ended up combining lions and vehicles in later seasons. The original Japanese series was a lot darker, like Everyone Dies darker. The original had the Earth completely destroyed by a nuclear war, and the US producers took liberties, and when Japan found out, they weren't thrilled, and lawsuits flew. Go Gadget nostalgia. Inspector Gadget was part cop show, part sci-fi spoof, and all crazy chaos. Gadget bumbled his way through missions thanks to endless gadgets built into his trench coat. But let's be real, Penny and Brain did all the heavy lifting. He was just a beautiful, walking, awkward distraction. The series was fantastic. It was slapstick, it was spy parody, it was strangely comforting. There was something about that synthesized theme song and curvy, soft animation style that made homework feel far less painful. Penny was voiced by Cree Summer, who went on to voice Elmira from Tiny Toons, as well as Susie from Rugrats, along with over 100 other voices to her credit. And Dr. Claw never showing his face kept us all on the edge of our beanbags. My friend and I swore we'd glimpse it one day. We totally obsessed over that claw hand like it was a horror prop. The original Inspector Gadget had a mustache, but testing audiences found him way too creepy with a mustache, and I'm going to have to agree with that. Inspector Gadget was voiced by Don Adams, Maxwell Smart himself from Get Smart. Everyone thinks Dr. Claw's voice was electronically modified, and it wasn't. The gravel was all natural, my man. I'm going to regret this. Let's Smurf it up, shall we? The Smurfs were basically blue communists living in a mushroom-based utopia. Seriously. Think about it. They shared resources, they had no visible economy that I could see, and everyone has one job. And Papa Smurf is basically Karl Marx in a red hat. I digress. But you know what? Hell, we didn't care about politics. We just wanted more of those weird little blue dudes dodging Gargamel and his janky cat. With its wholesome tone and catchy la 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 theme song, the Smurfs was the calm and the chaos of the rest of the 80s lineup. The theme song had lyrics that explained the backstory, but execs thought it would be too confusing for young kids. And let's not forget Smurfette, who was literally created by Gargamel to destroy the Smurfs. And we just accepted that, I guess. The original comics had her as a wild villain who always sabotaged the village, and her redemption arc was just for the cartoon. The Smurfs actually started as a Belgian comic in the 1950s before making their US debut in early 1980, around 1981. Religious groups accused the Smurfs of satanic messages because apparently being blue and happy is threatening somehow. The satanic panic was real in the 1980s. I'm not singing this phrase, but you know the theme song. Life is like a hurricane. DuckTales brought Disney into the 80s animation boom with a bang. Scrooge McDuck diving into a vault of gold coins was super iconic, and every episode felt like a mini action-adventure movie. Huey, Dewey, and Louie got a personality upgrade, and Webby was way more than just a token girl. Launchpad McQuack was my fave, and the pilot with a crash ratio that made you wonder how insurance even worked in Duckburg, if at all. What set DuckTales apart was the writing. It wasn't just silly antics, it was actually smart, globetrotting, and surprisingly emotional. When that theme song hit, it slapped. Hell, it still does. The first episode took 70 animators over an entire year to complete, making it one of Disney's most expensive pilots of that time. Not of all time, of that time. DuckTales was the first Disney cartoon developed specifically for syndication. The writers once tried to include Indiana Jones in an episode, but Spielberg shut it down. It still had that vibe either way. A quick tangent, anyone remember Tales of the Gold Monkey? The Golden Monkey? Which one was it? Something like that. I loved that show. The dog had an eye patch. It was baller. Cowabunga, dudes, you know this one was coming. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was basically the moment every kid in the 80s decided, hey, I love pizza more than breathing. 4 mutant turtles raised by a rat sensei in the sewers, taking on a metal-faced villain named Shredder. Man, take me back. This really seemed like peak 80s as I write all that out in one sentence. April O'Neil was actually a scientist in the original comics, and she was changed to a reporter for the series. This show was a cultural tidal wave. It blended martial arts, sci-fi, bad puns, and the best theme song ever composed by someone definitely on too much caffeine, if not something else. Michelangelo was every kid's spirit animal, Donatello made nerds cool, Leonardo had the leadership glow-up, and Raphael was emo-coded and every angsty preteen's role model. I remember fighting over which turtle we'd be at recess, and I was always Raphael because sarcasm runs deep with this tadpole. The original comic was actually super dark and created as a parody of Daredevil, and I had the comics before the cartoon actually came out myself. Pizza was only a thing in the series. It was never mentioned in the comics, and you have to wonder if there was a pizza chain tie-in that just never happened. UK censors renamed them Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles and edited out the nunchucks. No joke. That's a travesty, man.
Thundercats, ho!
Thundercats, ho! I had to. You heard that battle cry once and your entire DNA was rewired for epic. Thundercats was basically sword-swinging fantasy with cat people. What more could you ask for? Absolutely nothing. It was set on the planet Third Earth, and that name still messes with me, and the show followed Lion-O, who looked 25 at least, but was technically like 12. But to be fair, I don't know how lion furries are on Third Earth. He was voiced by the same voice actor that did Sonny the Cuckoo Bird, who was always cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. This animation was slick. The villains were grotesque in all the best ways. Mumra was hideous and beautiful, and the lore was super deep. Deep like unnecessarily deep for a cartoon meant to sell toys. But hell, we didn't mind and loved every second. The intro was animated by a Japanese studio at movie quality level to help the series stand out in syndication pitches. Can we extrapolate Thundar was Second Earth and Thundercats was Third Earth? Look, I can. The pilot episode of Thundercats cost over $1 million to produce. Mumra's voice actor also voiced multiple other characters, including a Snarf prototype. I'd assume when he introduced himself to the ladies, he leads with Mumra, and probably not the Snarf.
Yo, Joe! He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble.
Knowing is half the battle, and watching G.I. Joe was 100% the other half. This show practically invented the toy-first, plot-later strategy. Damned if anyone cared. With a massive rotating cast of Joes and Cobras, we got high-octane battles, laser guns that never hit anyone, and more explosions than a Michael Bay film. Man, did we love it. Cobra Commander's whiny voice seemed like nails on a chalkboard, and Snake Eyes really capitalized on the ninja trends that were taking over. Duke, Scarlet, and Roadblock, they were the team. And let's not forget those PSA outros. Now You Know was the original TED Talk. The show's creators were forced by network standards to ensure no one ever really died. This caused a cavalcade of parachutes every time a vehicle exploded. The PSAs at the end were never part of the original pitched production. They were added by Hasbro to ease parents' minds around the violence and subject matter. I mean, hell, it was war. People did die. Well, no, they didn't die. People did parachute out of planes. Joe had the first African-American female character to be prominently featured in a kid's cartoon, Agent Carla Doc Greer. The original G.I. Joe comic introduced Cobra as eco-terrorists, not world dominators. The show amped it way up. The 70s and 80s had so many eco-terrorist undertones across, honestly, most shows we've ever talked about. Yo, Joe.
Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Autobots, roll out. That's not easy to do. When Transformers hit the screen, it became an instant infatuation. Giant robots turning into trucks, jets, and even cassette players. Man, count me in. Count us in. Optimus Prime was the ultimate dad boss, and Megatron was an absolute menace. Their rivalry felt like a mythic battle between honor and bloody chaos. And the storyline was equally insane. Cybertron politics, energon shortages, betrayal arcs. It was like Shakespeare with friggin' lasers. And let's not forget Transformers the movie. Optimus Prime and Megatron voice actors actually recorded their back and forth lines in the same exact room for a more authentic chemistry. In line with other voice actors, Soundwave's voice effect was created by running Frank Welker's voice through a custom-made recorder that cost more than some episodes' total animation budget. That's insane. Transformers was created by merging two unrelated Japanese toy lines, Diaclone and Microman, then given lore by Marvel Comics writers. Hasbro killed off most of the original cast in the movie just to clear shelf space for new toys. That is corporate ruthlessness at its core.
And the masters of the universe.
I don't know why I'm starting all these with their catchphrases, but I can't help it. I have the power! If that line didn't make you rip your shirt off in a burst of imaginary muscle, were you even alive in the 1980s, man? He-Man and the Masters of the Universe wasn't just a cartoon. It was the cartoon. And Filmation really stuck to their style when they rolled this out. Filmation is known to reuse animation cells to save money, and you could see it in the walk cycle specifically. Sword and sorcery meets sci-fi with a dash of Greek god glamour, and a toy line so massive, it basically took over every toy aisle for a solid 5 years, at least. He-Man, Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Teela, Battle-Cat, Orko. Man, it was a whole freaking universe. And the life lessons at the end, man, they were golden truths. Skeletor's final design was based on a funhouse skeleton that Mattel designers saw at a carnival. He-Man was originally created in just 48 hours by Mattel to beat out Kenner's Star Wars toys. Skeletor was nearly rewritten as He-Man's half-brother in the later comics. Soap opera levels of drama. I wish they went through with that. That would have been an awesome storyline. Looking back at all shows we just went over, it's worth stating that Gem, G.I. Joe, and Transformers, along with Inhumanoids, let's not forget, technically exist in the same universe through Hasbro's original characters' licensing connections. There are Easter eggs hidden in each that you can pick out in large crowd scenes with cameos across-pollinating these shows. This is the definitive, totally accurate, argue with your friends list of the top 10 cartoons every 80s kids grew up watching. These weren't random cartoons. They were core moments in our lives we can always look back on. Our one common denominator. They shaped our personalities, created lifelong obsessions, and taught us that, yeah, you can wear spandex every day if you believe in your own heroism hard enough. I mean, you shouldn't, but you could. From our neon-soaked world of Gem and the sword-clashing chaos of He-Man, this countdown has been like flipping through the Saturday morning lineup of your childhood. Definitely of mine. These shows weren't just about selling toys. 100% mostly about selling toys. But they did create a cultural language we still speak today. Now, as promised, the most bizarre and controversial moment, it's going to go to Voltron. When producers mashed up two completely unrelated Japanese series, they didn't exactly ask permission for the second one. It led to years of horrific legal disputes, and for a while, Voltron was almost banned completely from Japanese airwaves due to copyright confusion. Kids had no idea, but behind the scenes it was a war of lawyers instead of lions. Did your favorite cartoon or character make the cut today? Did we totally snub your childhood icon? Man, drop a comment below and let us know which 80s cartoon still lives rent-free in your mushed up brain. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another nostalgia-loaded ride from GenX Countdown. Until next time, I'm Steve. Keep your cereal crunchy and your VCR flashing 12. And as always, stay cool, gang.